All right, let's talk about the big story here. Investors on the state of video games. We are investing, but the bar is so much higher. And this is a good story to talk about because lately we've been talking about all the different layoffs that are going on in the industry, with Microsoft being one of the more recent, that Microsoft laid off a bunch of people from Activision Blizzard. But it seems like every week we've been seeing stories about companies laying employees off to meet the market conditions. So this article talks about some of the investors from their standpoint, why they're doing the things they're doing. Says experts talk candidly about the sharp downturn in video game investment. So I got a few quotes here highlighted because this is a pretty lengthy article, and I just want to touch on a couple points of it. I'm going to put the link in the show description so you can, in the video description, so you can check it out and read the whole thing. It's a good article. So this COO of Wings, Ileana Oikawa, says that this might be one of the hardest times that the game industry has known. And that says a lot because the game industry is going through some ups and downs, specifically like during the .com booms and, when a lot of that stuff was going on, there was a lot of turmoil then. But I think it hit the tech industry more than the gaming industry. I think the gaming industry right now is in a swollen state to where I think they're more susceptible to being popped by the proverbial pin hitting the bubble. So this is the COO of Wings, which is a fund that specializes in financing games by diverse teams. The conjunction of the end of the COVID bubble, the crisis, the inflation, and high interest rates have led to a macroeconomic situation where investors and publishers are extremely cautious. I think that cautious word is probably going to be the theme of this whole article. They're really taking into account more things than before, and I think they're requiring more metrics and they're requiring more information about these things than they did before. Spike Laurie, partner at VC Hero Capital, adds, "The bar is super high right now. Before, a great game idea plus a great team used to cut it. You could walk out and get a couple of $1 million from a West Coast VC pretty easily with that. Now it's about, how are you validating this? What can you show me? Have you made a trailer? And do you have a Discord community that really loves the concept? Are you using companies to play test so you can validate and get real feedback? There's a lot more scrutiny. There's always been scrutiny, but there's just a lot more." And that makes sense. If you're in a tougher market, these companies got to look at whether they're going to be pinching pennies or not. They're going to be looking at whether you're going to be worth a couple $1 million or not. And that's tough. That's tough for small game developers, roughly small game developers, indie developers that are looking for funding or looking for some sort of a way to monetize their stuff. And I think this next quote from Patrick O'Donnell, he's an analyst at Goodbody Equity Research. He says that it's no understatement to say that 2023 was, this is past tense, was probably the toughest year for indie and AAA publishers in a very long time. In a very, very long time. And I think that's kind of indicative of what we've been seeing. Is that they've been meeting these tough conditions, and they're having to raise prices on something that, the gaming industry has kind of been immune to. Prices and inflation and adjustment for inflation has affected just about every other industry except for video games. Video games have been stuck at that $60 price point for many, many years. They have basically found ways to get around that, whether it be live service, microtransactions, nickel and diming, whatever, the things that we generally hate. They subsidize these games around that to keep the price point at $60. But now you're seeing games at $79.99, $69.99. They're $80. They're $70. And collector's editions are $100, $120. So the prices are going up, but those other things are still there. They still have microtransactions. They still have all the nickel and diming stuff that we don't like. They still have all these things to subsidize, but the prices are going up. And at the same time, companies are cutting back personnel. They're laying off people. And it's kind of rough, kind of tough. I think there's a quote in here. Yeah, here it is. it's kind of tough because some people are overreacting. Like you hear about, we're laying off 50% of the workforce, 60% of the workforce. So some of these layoffs have gone too far as executives overshoot in an attempt to ameliorate the market. And I agree with that. I think some of these massive layoffs where companies are laying off 60 to 70%, 50 to 70% of their employees, it's kind of wild. It's kind of insane to just cut your workforce by 3/4 and be able to output anything remotely similar to what you output before. That's just being unrealistic. For the people who were let go, they're probably in a better position. They're probably like, oh, I'm glad I'm not staying there, because they're going to work these people to the bone to meet the deadlines that we've already committed to with only 25% of the company left, which is, you know, basically asking for the impossible, especially in a stable state. And it's really, really disheartening that a lot of people have to sit there and take this because they really don't have an option other than to leave. And people are leaving. But the job market ain't exactly the best right now for game developers and software developers, because so many people are laying off that the actual talent pool is swelling to unimaginable proportions now. So you've got seriously talented developers, managers, project managers, IT professionals. You got this huge bubble of talent that are all looking for jobs at the same time. So you've got some stiff competition with this whole bubble that's happening. So finding a new job, you know, if you have a job, you know, I would recommend, and you know, I've been out of the industry for a little bit, but I would recommend don't quit your job before you find a new one. I mean, I'm always like that. When I was looking for a new job, I would never quit the previous one before I found a new one. But even more so today, make sure you got something on lock. You got something signed. Because even people who they will give you an offer letter, you'll sign the offer letter, and then you quit your job, you go there, and then they fire you, or they say, no, we can't do this anymore. And you're just going, what? You know, that does happen. So it's a very uncertain industry right now, where game developers are looking for companies to they're looking for VCs to fund their projects. And you know, Kickstarter used to be the thing, but now that people in this economy have cut back on their disposable income, you know, raising a Kickstarter to so many millions of dollars and getting all these stretch goals is not something that was once, is not something that's attainable as it once was. So you've got to be very, very mindful and careful about how you're going to fund your games in 2024. Check the story out, guys, over on GameIndustry.biz. They got the details about how investors are being very cautious and how they're asking you to put up some information and put up some proof, trailers, Discord community. They want to, this is like buying a house. They want some proof that you can come up with the assets, that you can come up with the game that you're asking to be funded in your endeavors in 2024. So it's really becoming tougher to get funded. But if you got a good game, if you got good backing, then you should be able to get funded, but it's not as easy as it once been. Check it out. They got details on GameIndustry.biz.